Are you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years. With over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews, Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Matters podcast. I'm your host, Clark Dunn, here with Matt Curtis and Matt Curtis Real Estate.
Yeah, really exciting and important episode today. Kind of like the holy grail for a lot of real estate agents. You know, why do I have a big month and then why do I have a slow month after that? We're going to dive into that after just years, thousands of sales. We sold over 8,500 homes, a lot of data. We made over 100,000 calls last year alone, 17,000 in January. We just finished January, and over about 600 appointments. So we have a lot of data to back up what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and that consistency is probably something that, if someone's listening that's not into real estate or is into real estate, they always hear the conversations of, why doesn't a real estate agent maybe sell 5 homes one month and then 0 homes the next?
Yeah, and that's something that's just really baffling me. We'll have an agent outside of our team or even on our team has a really good month and then a down month, and trying to figure out like why that is. And so we really just kind of dug into the data and found some inspiration from an author by the name of Jim Collins. Wrote Good to Great, Great by Choice. Has a lot of really good concepts in there. And one of those that really resonated with us and made a lot of sense when we think about this conversation is the idea of a 20-mile march. Mm-hmm. And so he uses a story of basically a couple expedition groups. I can't remember if they were going to the North Pole or the South Pole, but basically they were going on this expedition, and there was one group that basically just did whatever they felt like. If the weather was good and it was a good day, they were energetic, they would just go as far as they could. Sometimes they'd go 40 miles. And then the next day, hey, the weather came in, it's terrible, we're not going to make it out today, whatever. And didn't do anything. And so it was up and down, up and down. And long story short, that group ended up not even making it to the end, but they ended up dying. But the other group, what they did is they consistently went on this 20-mile march. Hey, it was a great day out today, went 20 miles. Hey, it was terrible out today. It was snowing. We're going uphill. We went 20 miles. Mm-hmm. And so in that case, it was life or death. But I think in real estate, it's really kind of life or death, whether you achieve success and stay in real estate, or you part of one of those statistics that 87% of agents get out of the business in 5 years. It really comes down to this level of consistency.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about how you've kind of integrated that 20-mile march into an actual award that your team gives out each year.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to us. And so, what you talk about, what you reward is what people, aspire after. And so, as any leader, if something's important to your team, if it's something that's important to make them successful, those are the things you want to talk about. You don't want to talk about all like the failures. You want to talk about the successes. And so at our annual awards party, we actually have a 20-mile march award that we give not only to one of our agents, but one of our admin as well, that consistently show that 20-mile march, every consistency every day, every week, every month throughout the year. Because real estate really isn't a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about it earlier, just like how much volume and calls and consistency that you do. A big part of your kind of bringing on new real estate agents is to make sure that they're aware of the numbers. And how do you kind of break down the numbers that y'all do with the success you do when you see a new agent coming on board?
Yeah, so we actually have like that formula broken down off, across hundreds of agents that we had on our team, and you have thousands of calls, 8,500 sales. And so we have a lot of data to pull this off of. And what we found is, right now it's about 150 calls for every contract. And then it's about 25 conversations. So not everybody calls, you're going to get the first time. And so having 25 conversations typically leads to a contract. And then on average, it's 6 appointments per contract. And so we will bring a new team member on and we'll actually walk them through a goal worksheet of, all right, what's your income goal? All right, that translates to this number of sales because we know each sale is going to be about this amount of money. And then we can break it down like, all right, well, this is the effort you're going to need to put in, the number of calls, the number of appointments. And we do see, people that are, below the average, some above the average, especially when you first get started out. But that helps us coach the agents. Like if our average ratio is 150 calls to one contract and they're at 300, we know that there's a scripting issue. Like there's something that they're not saying on the phone. Maybe they're not energetic. Yeah, that's the easy thing is you can just get on the phone and you just talk like this. You can just not be energetic. And so are they standing up when they're talking, or are they preparing for the calls, their energy level? Or are they just not saying the right things? And so we have some good tools to kind of help coach them through that. And then the other side that we sometimes see is, all right, well, it's 12 appointments before they're getting a contract, 15 appointments. In that case, they're basically kind of turned into an Uber driver. They're just, oh, you want to go show home? Yeah, let's go see it. And then they're waiting for the customer or the client to say, hey, I'm ready to buy this, versus actually using sales skills to help narrow it down, help, get the client over the hump of actually, hey, I'm ready to purchase. And so at that point, then we coach them on closing skills and sales skills. And so having those ratios has been a huge help for us in serving our client and serving our agents. Our agents are our clients, serving our agents and helping them fulfill their goals. But it's also funny. Like we just finished, so it's beginning of February when we're recording this. We just finished January. Had a great January. We had a 45% increase in contracts year over year. So it was a great month. And so I asked some of our leadership team. I was like, all right, so what do you feel like our call percentage was up? We had 45% increase in contracts. Some of them said 10%, some of them said 30%, some said higher. Well, it's not rocket science. It was close to 45%. We had a 53% increase. We actually had some new agents, and so they're still building up their pipeline, and so it didn't 100% translate over, but it was linear basically. All we needed to do was hire more agents, make more calls, and we were going to get more contracts.
I mean, I think it's incredible just to see kind of how obviously over the years, you've been able to build this blueprint for agents. So there is, and we talked about it in previous episodes, and we'll probably talk about it in future episodes too, of just the infrastructure that agents should look for when they go join a team. And y'all have that infrastructure. And like you've probably been able to see over the years, agents that come in that maybe over the course of a year at other agency or other company, they maybe only sell 12 homes a year, and they're averaging 3 or 4 homes, some months no home, some months 1 home, and they're able to build that consistency and not see those gaps in the sale process.
Yeah, and that's really the difference with us. We're not winging it. We've got a process, and so I'm not an Alabama football fan. I know a lot of the audience probably is, but I'm a huge Nick Saban fan. And so what I hear about Nick Saban when he was out recruiting, so he had a lot of those national championship rings. And so he would sit down with a recruit and say, hey, do you put them all on the table? Do you want one of these? And that's the same thing for agents that are looking to join our team. Like we've been the number 1 team 6 years in a row. Once the numbers come out for last year, it's going to be 7 years in a row. We have a proven process and system that works.
Yeah. And I think, it's the conversations that we've had on here so far and the conversations we'll have in the future will continue to build that for the listener. We'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes from this conversation, anything that maybe if they're interested in joining a team or interested in finding out more, there'll be links below, but I appreciate it.
Perfect.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.